Good evening, friends. Happy to be with you today. It's a chilly day, as you can see in my coat, but nonetheless, it's the time for the Word of God. Let us bow our heads with a word of prayer, justly. Baba wethu sikhaya ezulwini, udumo lube wena ekuseni, amandla obukhosi enikazimulo. Sithulele kona konke sithe sakwenza ukukhuluma nokucabanga. Iba nemqondo yethu lapho sibheka leli lizwi lakho, lisikholise ekwazini nasekwesabeni, sikuduse sikudumise ngalo, ngoKristu manje phakathi. Amen. Yes, friends, our topic for today is the judgment of God, or the Judgment Day. Before we begin, I would like to pause a little bit, just a moment, to think about the recent happenings in our country and in the world as a whole. There is now this new, our president called it a new pandemic of the femicide. There is a movement, Black Lives Matter, and many churches are responding to it. I met this statement on the net from one church that I'm not going to mention, and the statement reads, Black Lives Matter. To our topic today. It says, and Jesus said, judge not, that you be not judged, for what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged as well. And what measure you mete, it shall be measured out to you as well. Matthew 7 verses 1 and 2. I liked that one. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Luke 6 verse 37. I like that one, friends. Let us continue into today's. As we continue, let's remind ourselves what we have been saying all along. We have said from the beginning of this series, 1, God gave us His Word. And we said, by the way, what does that mean? It means if somebody says, I'm giving my word, it means that person is making a serious promise. He's giving an assurance. And that person is making a vow to someone, or in this case, God made a serious promise to Himself to save us. He made a vow to Himself to save us. And friends, this isn't cosmetic by any way. God means it, and He did just that. And we said, when we did not believe God, then He gave us His Son. What does that mean, that God gave us His Son? For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes should not perish. What does it mean? It means God made His Word to be flesh and lived among us. Friends, we still did not believe God at that. And then God sent us His Spirit. And this time He gives us a warning not to grieve the Spirit wherewith we are sanctified. We continue to say in Malachi 3:16, then those who feared the Lord spoke one to another, and the Lord listened and heard them. So a book was written before him, a book of remembrance, for those who fear the Lord and who meditate on his name. In Daniel 12, verse 1, at that time Micaiah, that great prince who stands watch over your people, will rise up. There will be a time of distress such as never has occurred from the beginning of the nations until then. But those at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. Not maybe, but will be delivered. Anyone whose name was found not written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. We don't want to get there. Friends, that was, by the way, recapitulation. We were recapping. We are reminding ourselves, since we have had a break of a week or so. And friends, I would like you to take a listen at this clip.
Welcome back. Laid to rest amid angry calls for justice, family and friends have said their final goodbyes to Sekgofatso Pule, the pregnant woman found stabbed and hanging from a tree in Roodepoort this week. Police say arrests in the 28-year-old's murder are imminent. Manqoba Nkunu attended Pule's emotional funeral.
Fun-loving.
She came all the day. He says, and then she's like, I'm going to Christ Bible Church and I'm going to pray for you. You're going to find peace in your heart. And then she's like, I'll always be there for you through the end.
Her murder sparked.
To my children out there, boys, if there's any mistake that I have done to you, give me a chance.
To our sisters, to our mothers, you have done nothing wrong. You must never apologize for being a woman. These people who are killing our sisters are cowards.
And amid a renewed nationwide outpouring over gender-based violence, regrets from Pule's uncle, who previously defended Karabo Mokwena's convicted killer.
Yes, I did my job, but I now know how it feels like. And from this moment on, this is my pledge. You come to me, you say you've raped, go to hell. You come to me, you've said you've killed your girlfriend, go to hell.
Pule's loved ones have laid her to rest, but they're still a long way off from finding closure because whoever is responsible for her murder is yet to be arrested. The family is hoping its calls for justice will now be heard. Manqoba Nkunu, Soweto.
Story. I don't want to say those are men. No, those are animals on 2 feet. They are a disgrace to any human being who calls himself a man. We don't murder those that we love. But I'm not there. We have seen the video. Was any judgment being passed in that video? I'm not too sure. You are the judge. A day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken. 37. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words, friend, you will be condemned. I wonder what you say. But let's come to the definition. Here's a definition of judgment from this dictionary. This one is a Oxford English Dictionary. It defines judgment as, just like this part only. It says a misfortune or a calamity viewed as divine judgment. Then, friends, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, I like it also when on point number 5, when it defining this word, it says, the final judging of humankind by God. I'd like to go on and take this one. This one is the legal dictionary, dictionary of law, as it defines judgment. It says it's a decision by a court or other tribunal that resolves controversy and determines the rights and obligations of the parties. Friends, I don't know what you say, but we would like to go on and see how does this work. How does this work? In Psalm 109 verse 6, I read, appoint a wicked man against him and let an accuser stand at his right hand. What he's saying, put an accused to this person, a person who's said to be guilty on the left. And on the right hand side, we put the person who says this person is guilty. That means these two are presented before somebody who's supposed to determine who is the guilty party of the two, who's supposed to condemn one party and acquit one party. That reminds me of a story that happened when a woman whom they say they found committing adultery, then they brought him to Jesus. That means Jesus is a judge. Even if they did not admit the Pharisees and the scribes and the priests, they did not admit, but for the mere fact that they brought this woman to Jesus, then they were admitting to me that Jesus is a righteous judge. Then I won't narrate the whole story, but you remember Jesus, he started to write down on the floor, and each person came to look there and disappeared. And then in verse 10 of John 8, Jesus spoke these words. Woman, where are those thine accusers? No man, sir, no man, Lord, the woman replied. And Jesus said unto her, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Excuse me. Please don't run away. It's not COVID-19. In Revelation 12, verse 10, and I heard a loud voice in the heaven saying, now salvation and power and kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For our accuser, the accuser of our brothers, has been thrown down into who accuses them day and night before our God. Aha. God is our judge. Remember, we said, the Bible said there must be the accused person and the one who's accusing them this side, who must be presented before somebody who's capable of determining who the guilty party is, determining who is to be acquitted and who is to be condemned. And our God, according to Revelation 10, is our judge, because the accuser who's Lucifer, who's Satan, is presenting us, presenting us to our God as the guilty parties. Yes, I've just said that Satan is stayed as an accuser. You get that one from the Easton's Bible Dictionary. It tells you that as well. Let me continue. There is this commentary I like also that explains who the participants are, how this matter goes along. It says, but after thy hardness and impenitent treasures, but after thy hardness and impenitent heart, treasures up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judge, our God. Romans 2 verse 5. For if God then, think about it, if God did not spare those angels that sinned, Lucifer being one of them, Satan being one of them. We understand Lucifer this time as a horrible angel, with maybe black, as some portray him, with horns and with a long fork and turning people in hell. That's not Lucifer, friends. That is not Lucifer. According to God, Lucifer was a cherubi. He used to walk among the fires of heaven, approach the other places that no other angel was approaching. And if God did not spare such a creature of his that is so excellent, how can we think God can have any excuse to spare us? Think about it. Judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages. Let me pause there. That is Malachi 3 verse 5 phrase. Let me pause there a little bit. We call upon God's judgment on ourselves every day. If you hire somebody and then squeeze out of that person all the strength and the power and underpay him and postpone his payment, and you are going to be judged for that. The hireling there is any worker. Don't oppress the hireling in his wages. When one is supposed to be paid, pay him promptly. I won't get there. I'll leave that one for another day. The widow continues, and the fatherless. Those are people we need to take good care of. Let me continue. In Jude verses 6 and 7. And the angels who did not stay within their own dominion and abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in eternal chains, friends. In like manner, Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities that were around them, who indulged in sexual immorality, pursued a strange flesh, are a display today. They are just a display today of what God will do in the judgment. Let's continue, my friends. Let's continue. Revelation 20 verse 4. And I saw the thrones. Let me read that one again. Let me read that one again. I need to read it from my Bible. 20 verse 4. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded or slain because of their testimony for Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or his image and had not received his mark on their foreheads or in their right hands, and they came to life. They reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. All right? There are people God has given authority to sit on the judgment seat. And those people, one of them is you, I believe, if you do according to what God is telling you. And one of them is myself, if I do as God instructs me to do. We are trying, friends. But let me explain this matter of judgment. This is part 1, friends. Part 2 is coming. But we're looking at the scenario of judgment here. We said there must be the accused and there must be the accuser on the right. And there must be a standard or a norm or a law that the accused on the left is said to have violated. Otherwise, friends, there can't be any judgment. And more than that, there must be witnesses. Otherwise, the judgment cannot be said to be fair and just. Where am I getting that from? Remember the woman in the story I referred to in the beginning? They brought her to Christ. And that was not just the accused and the accuser only. There were also witnesses who came to witness Jesus' judgment there. Even when Jesus was being tried, there were witnesses. They called for at least 2 witnesses. So there must be a witness in order to say the judgment is fair, the judgment is just. There is a way we Africans look at the judgment too. I'd like to quote that one. According to IWC van Wyk, who is who's working for the Institute of Missiology, or missiologist, he wrote a book, The Final Judgment in African Perspective. The Final Judgment in African Perspective. He narrates there, friends, the story according to different clans in Africa, according to different nationalities in Africa, all the way from the north up to the south. He looks at that and he says, these Africans, they have a varied way of looking at judgment. They are not the same, and yet it's one Africa. And others, he says, they believe that they will have to die in order for them to be judged. Others believe, no, we have our ancestors who have gone on before us, who have passed on before us, and those are pleading us so that we are not judged. So there is nothing like a hellfire or a judgment according to them. Then I would like to quote these few, the Icon people in Ghana, who are said to be a little bit different from these, according to John Mbiti. He says, they believe that there is a judgment in the afterlife. They are still Africans. Where do you belong? I don't know. Let's continue. Let's look at the accused. I believe you can see this chap who is standing in the box there, and he is the accused, friends. I'm taking this one from that Bible commentary of mine I like. It's called The Great Controversy. I read, "The grey-headed man who had left a comfortable home to travel at his own expense from city to city, from town to town, toiling unceasingly to bear to the world the solemn warning of judgment near, was sneeringly denounced as a fanatic, as a liar, as a speculating knave." The law of God is the standard by which the characters and the lives of men will be tested in the judgment. Says the wise man, fear God. That's what the wise man is saying. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment. How can you then say, no, I am free of God's commandments, I can't be judged? How? The Apostle James admonishes us and says, "So, brethren, speak ye and do. Speak ye and do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty." That's what James is saying. Speak ye and do as those who shall be judged by the law of liberty. I don't know, friends. I don't know. What I know is that in Romans 2, verses 12 to 16, it says, "All who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law." So there's no escape here. You can say, no, I'm saved. Because I'm saved, law is away from me, I'm done with the law. Fine, you perish still apart from the law. For it is not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but it is the doers of the law who will be declared righteous. Doers of the law will be declared righteous. How are you going to be? What is it going to be with you? Then it talks about Gentiles. I guess it's talking about our ancestors, those who did not know about the 10 commandments of God. Ushara didn't know anything about that, did he? No, he didn't. So he says, and Gentiles who did not have the law do by nature what the law requires. They are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. Every nation, friend, there's no nation that agrees, that simply says, it's okay, you can murder as much as you kill, as you like. No. That says you must steal. No, there's none. That says you must take somebody's possession without his, do robbery. There's none. Even all nations, yes, all nations, they have their day of freedom. Then people think heaven will have no day they celebrate as their freedom day. Hello, wake up. Then it says, with that which you did not know was a law, and you are doing it, so you did it right, but you still have to answer to God someday, somehow. Let's continue. since they show that the work of the law is written in their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts either accusing or defending them. This will come to pass on that day when God will judge men's secret thoughts, Christ Jesus says, as proclaimed by my gospel. And I like this one, Revelation 12 verse 17. Let's look at that one moment. And the dragon was wroth, was enraged, was angry with the woman, and went to make war with the rest of her children who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. You can keep the commandments of God alone, and guess what? If you don't have Christ, you perish. You can have Christ alone, but don't keep his commandments. Guess what? You still perish. You must have both. You must keep the commandments of God and have faith in Jesus Christ that is going to save you. That, my friend, is the story of judgment. Then in Daniel, the prophet says, I beheld till the thrones were placed, and the one that was an ancient of days did sit, and his raiment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, and his throne was like fiery flames, and the wheels thereof burning fire. A fiery stream came before him, and 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. What is it that is going to be found in the book against you? Did you keep God's law or you did not? If you did not, judgment is on you. Judgment must begin at the house of God, says Peter. And if it first begins with us, what shall be the end of them that obey not the gospel? That's Peter asking you. Then he says, Luke says, when the disciples were excited that now they were able to cast the demons were listening to them. They came to Jesus to report, and Jesus said, don't be happy that the demons are listening to you. Be happy that your names are written in the book in heaven. Luke 10 verse 20. What is it going to be with you, my friend? Then the commentary I've been referring to says this. I'm hoping I'm quoting for the last time. In the book of God's remembrance, every deed of righteousness is immortalized. There every temptation resisted, every evil overcome, every word of tender pity expressed is faithfully chronicled, and every act of sacrifice, every sacrificing, every suffering and sorrow endured for Christ's sake is recorded. Then the psalmist says, my friend, Thou tellest my wanderings, put thou my tears into thy bottle, are they not in thy book? Just before we conclude for today, we're just about to conclude, I want you to consider, ponder on this statement. From the same book I've quoted, same commentary, it says, friend, could the veil be separated? could the veil which separates the visible from the invisible world be swept back, and the children of men behold an angel recording every word and deed which they must meet again in judgment. How many words that are daily uttered would remain unspoken? How many deeds would remain undone?